You say, what do you mean by this? It is a hydra-headed, disguised as a religion. I had given advice to at least 3 generations of CAN presidents. One particular CAN president, when they were going to announce that, oh, this happened in Turkey, in Egypt, I said, I'm the one who drew those narratives from 1990 something. And I said, the more I learned, the more I shook my head that there's a difference between a satanic problem and a religious problem. And I said something. He said, how can you say that? Can't you see them killing Christians? I said, sir, this thing will kill Muslims as easily as it's killing Christians. Under 2 weeks, the machinery started slaughtering Muslims. And now, what the church doesn't realize in Nigeria today is that when you go outside this country and you try to make it a religious problem, they have even more accurate statistics of the number of Muslims that are also being slaughtered in recent years. In the earlier years, it was Christians that were the first target. And there's a reason. The Hydra head wants to use religion as a ground for recruitment. So, it likes to divide societies along religious lines. But it's not the first time it has happened. When you read this book, you'll find out in the year 1095, was it Pope Urban II? He made a speech, and a 200-year war started. He himself probably would not understand that they had mixed a theology with a philosophy. The result was 200 years of war, just like this that Nigeria is experiencing right now. But it was under the Catholic religious cover at that time. So it can use any religious cover, and if Nigeria wants to survive, I've told you when I started out that you will not agree with me, because if you have been emotive and not deductive, you will want to embrace the religious story. But I've had to sit down, and if I have time later on during question and answer, I will show you that the more you divide a community along religious lines, the faster this new war form will destroy your community. One of the biggest problems in Nigeria is the Southwest to this new war form. Do you know why the Southwest is a big problem? Do you know why they are now pouring in militants to use raw terror? The Southwest is a big stumbling block, because in the Southwest, every family has Christians and Muslims, and they refuse to fight themselves. That is a big problem. Go to most northern cities today, Christians live on one side, Muslims live on one side. But they've had a problem crossing the Southwest. Now let me say this to you clearly. There was a whole lot of noise about Governor Arebe at one time being a Boko Haram. Well, as the special advisor at that time to the current president, it was my duty to embed people, to watch, gather information, to get our people, watch the communities. When they brought me all the results to show that, there was one rascally group called Taun. They call them Taun in Iwo, who will beat people. They do all sorts of things. By the time the people in the field came back to give me the report, it was clear that, I don't know what you think Boko Haram is in Osun State, but you don't know the meaning of Boko Haram. By the time they brought me the appointment, and I found that the governor insists on putting 3 books to be available for all students. 1, the Quran; 2, the Bible; and the third one was what? Ifa oracles. I just looked at it, I said, you people don't even know, you are calling something with your mouth. You don't even know the meaning of militant Boko Haram. Whatever he was doing in that place was not what we are dealing with now. I don't know what it was. Maybe you can call it religious rascality. But definitely, it is not what we are dealing with. What we are dealing with doesn't beat people. It kills people. What we are dealing with does not capture Obas and then beat people and release them to Obas. It kills Obas. The machinery we are dealing with feeds on blood. That's the spiritual aspect. So the moment you misdiagnose it and you turn it into Christian versus Muslim, you will increase the volume of blood. Nice Muslims who before were your friends, who are conscience driven, you will push them to an extreme end. You see them as the enemy, they will be forced to become your enemy, even though they didn't plan to become your enemy. And in northern Nigeria, every time this new war form got to a community where the emir, where the imams refused to participate in slaughter, what did he do to them? He killed them. So let me just leave that for now, and now let me go on to the fact that Nigeria has to acknowledge that this is a new form of war. We have been at war. We will not be the only country. Now, this war is so lethal that if you go and look at Nigeria's definition of terrorism, Fulani, what the Fulani herdsmen are doing may not qualify as terrorism legally. You go and do your homework. Go and look at the definition of terrorism in Nigeria. Every nation of the world has a different definition of terrorism. Because one man's meat is another man's poison. So when you go and look at the statutes, I have some, I think it's also in this book, you'll find it somewhere there. You go and look at the definition and the latest acts, even the one that was amended, and look at the definition of terrorism, you'll be shocked to find out that whatever the Fulanis are doing does not really qualify to be described as terrorism. So, if the church does not apply the wisdom of God to detect this hydra and tweak all these things, do you think this nation will survive? If the church does not play its role of applying the mind of Christ to diagnose properly and then push it and compel the government that if it wishes to survive, it must put X, Y, and Z in place. So, having said that, I will now move on to what you want me to talk about. And like I told you, you may not like what I say, but at the end of the day, you are going to find out that this new war form wears religion as a disguise so that it can radicalize whichever religion it is wearing. In 1905, it wore the garment of the Catholic faith. The war lasted 200 years. Right from the sermon at the Council of Clermont in 1905, when Pope Urban started. So, it's a lethal mix. It is actually the dragon. Nigeria is not facing religion. It is facing the dragon. 7 heads, 10 horns, and a tail that is destructive. As Boko Haram, it was wreaking havoc. But ever before the Fulani mounted scale, if you ask some of the people who know me, once we saw what was happening to the Boko Haram and we saw that the media globally was bad, we said it's going to change its shape now. So what did it do? Today there are some young miscreants calling themselves Fulani, what they call those boys who are giving ultimatum, talking anyhow on TV. What they call the ragamuffins. Let's ask ourselves a real question. Trained militants with AK-47s who use sophisticated drones to spy enemy territory before there's movement, who have lobby groups all over the world, in different nations of the world. Is it this, what do they call this? Is this riffraffs? Is this anachronisms? Do you think they're the ones we are dealing with? They will be discarded as cheaply as when Boko Haram was discarded to fund them. They can now come back and now fund them collectively for the final onslaught. But if you think the intelligence you are facing, the logistics, the modus operandi of what you are facing, are you telling me that you can't remember when in the Bible the man said, this is the voice of Jacob. This is the voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau. if a father could know the signature of his children, look at, they are happy. The role they are playing right now, they are very happy to play it. They are not the ones sponsoring what is going on. They are not the ones doing the supply chain. They are even happy that somebody is funding them. Somebody has made them prominent. How many cattle there are we? How many palm wine tappers have you seen in southern Nigeria? You remember palm wine tapper? These are anachronisms. Imagine if an association of palm wine tappers now come out and threaten Nigeria. And Nigeria has to listen to them. Wouldn't they be happy? They will be very happy. Okay? So let me tell you something. Helicopter drops, the logistics, modus operandi, the military tactics that is going on. In fact, we remember when they first started teaching them how to make bombs in northern Nigeria, they were blowing their own hands up. And I think they had to find a compromise and bring in people to come and be mixing the bombs for them. So go back. I have a documentary we'll show you later on, short film in Awolowo's days. We'll show you the cattle raiders, the Fulani, how they handled it then. You are dealing with a global intelligence. And I remember on the Channels TV interview, I said this about a year plus ago. I said, when you begin to see light-skinned Berbers, Arabs, arriving in Nigeria with their guns, battle-trained, battle-weary, I said, you have just begun to see the real people behind this war form. So all these ones you are seeing, they are just using them to clear the way. Should I even amuse you? Many people who cooperated with them in northern Nigeria will end up being slaughtered because they will create new emirates. It's in the book. By the time they finish, they will create new emirates. Izala used to be feared. Remember the Izala sect? When these people arrived, they told the Izala that they are backsliders and rejected the Izalas. So are we dealing with the same thing? One more thing you're going to find in this book is this. For all those who keep saying that this is the Danfodio, continuation of the Danfodio jihad, they are laughing at you and laughing and they are enjoying everything you are saying. Danfodio, go and find out his legacy was a Sufi. That's why most of them were Quadraniya and Tijaniyas. Over some decades, some people worked upon doctrine to push them towards what this one operates. So they've done their homework. The late Sheikh Gumi, there was a time they tried to assassinate him. It was Muslims who wanted to assassinate him when it was Gankadi. So let us go back to the drawing board. Go and see how far back some of these things have started. And it was Gumi who was the patron of the Izala. But these people rejected Gumi's work. And they still reject it. But a lot of people have now been converted because we took it as a religious war. So, these points, whether they matter or not, I will say them. Time will tell. If we are wise enough to gain the wisdom to handle this thing, and we handle it well, it's a cheap problem. There are 3 moves we can make right now in the next 3 months. It will be a distant memory that anybody tried to take over Nigeria. But if we keep responding to it wrongly, we will find out too late that it was never the cattle rearers, it was never Magban, it was never the people you suspect, but there was a foreign intelligence that is acute, is well funded, it has decimated many nations from within before coming here.